Sparks ignited in a Dallas courtroom this morning when U.S. Representative Jasmine Crockett found herself ensnared in an unexpected legal fray, not as an advocate, but as the accused. What began as a routine court appearance spiraled into a fiery clash with a notoriously abrasive judge, triggering a chain of events that could redefine judicial accountability. The courtroom buzzed with tension as Jasmine Crockett pushed through the heavy oak doors, her heels clicking sharply on the polished tile floor. It was 9:27 a.m., 12 minutes past the scheduled hearing time, a rare delay for her, but unavoidable. Moments earlier, she'd been pulled into an urgent call from the House Oversight Committee regarding a sensitive whistleblower report tied to prison mistreatment in North Texas. She couldn't ignore it, not when lives were at stake. Known locally as Pearson's Pit for the judge's habit of berating novice attorneys and first-time offenders, the courtroom fell silent the moment she entered. Every eye locked on her. Judge Michael Pearson, an aging figure with a furrowed brow and a taste for public humiliation, leaned forward from his bench like a hawk eyeing prey. Well, Pearson drawled, flipping through papers with theatrical disdain. Congresswoman or not, timeliness matters here. Crockett stood tall, adjusting her dark blazer's label, her voice steady. Your Honor, I regret the delay. I was detained by an urgent call from... I don't want excuses. He cut in sharply, slamming his gavel once for effect. Contempt of court. $500 fine. Gasps rippled from the backbenches, where reporters scribbled frantically. Crockett raised an eyebrow, but didn't waver. Are you fining me for being 12 minutes late, due to an emergency tied to my congressional duties? Pearson's lips curled into a thin smirk. I'd fine anyone who disrespects my court. Her jaw tightened. This wasn't about tardiness. It was personal. The room felt it. The tension between them crackled like static. Her presence in court stemmed from a minor issue. A traffic violation wrongly flagged under her name due to a clerical error in the city's vehicle registry. She'd chosen to appear in person rather than send a staffer, a nod to standing equal with her constituents. But what should have taken minutes was becoming a spectacle. Jasmine stepped to the podium. May I speak, Your Honor? Speak, by all means, he said mockingly, leaning back. Amuse us. Her expression stayed calm. Your Honor, I've served as a public defender and a lawmaker. I know courtroom protocol well. I also know judicial discretion and how it's applied unevenly based on age, race, or status. A low murmur of agreement stirred the crowd. Pearson's eyes narrowed. Are you implying this court is biased? I'm stating that patterns of excessive punishment need scrutiny, she replied. I've seen young defendants fined, jailed, or shamed for infractions others walk away from. This courtroom has a reputation. Pearson's tone turned cold. You're nearing another contempt charge, Representative, and you're nearing a violation of the Code of Judicial Conduct, she countered, specifically Canon 3-5, on bias and prejudice. Are you familiar? Silence blanketed the room. Even the bailiff shifted uncomfortably. Pearson, caught off guard, mastered with a thin laugh. You think you can waltz in and lecture me on ethics? I think if no one does, you'll keep bullying those who can't fight back, she said. The gallery was gripped, phones secretly recording, reporters whispering. Jasmine continued, contempt should uphold dignity, not ego. I'll pay the $500, but I'm filing a complaint with the Texas Commission on Judicial Conduct. And since you've made this personal, I'll submit evidence for a full review of your practices. Pearson's face reddened, his gavel still. Outside the courtroom, Jasmine's communications director, Alyssa Torres, was flooded with media calls. News outlets had caught wind of the drama. A city council member texted. They'd been waiting for someone to confront him. Back inside, Pearson tried to regain control. Complaints against judges rarely stick, Congresswoman, he said. But if you want to waste time, go ahead. Crockett's gaze was sharp. This isn't about time, Judge Pearson. It's about precedent. If someone like me, with legal training, public visibility, and congressional authority, can be treated this way, imagine what happens to those without those shields. The hearing adjourned, but no one moved. Pearson struck his gavel twice. "Get out of my courtroom." She didn't blink. Gladly. As she left, her phone buzzed. A message from a former court clerk who'd seen the news. "You're right about him. I have records." Outside the courthouse, surrounded by cameras, Crockett addressed the press. "I was held in contempt for being 12 minutes late due to a congressional emergency. But the real contempt is what happens daily in this courtroom to young people, black and brown defendants, those without privilege. Today, we start asking questions. What began as a clerical error was now a collision between justice and power, intimidation and resistance." By afternoon, the story had swept every major Texas outlet. Headlines blared, "Congresswoman fined in contempt by controversial judge." A shaky video clip showed Crockett standing firm as Pearson barked from the bench. Social media ignited. Activists, attorneys, and public defenders nationwide shared it, tagging it with #PearsonPitfall and #JusticeInOtigo. But inside the George L. Allen courthouse, things were personal. Judge Pearson was livid, pacing his chambers, his mahogany desk cluttered, his phone buzzing non-stop. His clerk, Dana, stood silently as he snapped, "She thinks this will scare me. A few reporters and posts will undo 30 years of judicial authority." Dana swallowed. "Sir," the commission called. "They want a statement." And the State Bar emailed about your wasting time comment. He spun around. "Get me the unredacted hearing transcript now." Meanwhile, Jasmine was steps ahead. In her Dallas office, she'd gathered a war room of legislative staff, legal advisors, and 2 trusted ex-public defenders. Laptops glowed, coffee cups piled up, voices clipped and purposeful. "I've filed the misconduct complaint," she said, "but anecdotes aren't enough. We need patterns, sentencing disparities, gender bias, racial profiling, anything with his name. Dockets, transcripts." Terrence, her researcher, nodded. "I'm cross-referencing dismissed motions and overruled objections by Pearson over 5 years. There's a spike, especially with defendants under 30. Alyssa added, "Media's exploding. MSNBC, CNN, The Hill. Do we go public?" Jasmine didn't hesitate. "We do, but strategically. This isn't just about me, it's about Pearson's courtroom as a microcosm of systemic flaws. We tell that story." Outside, the courthouse swarmed with protesters and press. Signs read "Justice shouldn't be personal," and "Power isn't above scrutiny." Chants rose, "We see you, Jasmine." Inside, Pearson doubled down, opening court with a chilling address. This morning, this courtroom's sanctity was attacked by political theater. This bench isn't a stage, this gavel isn't a toy, and the next person who confuses either will face the law's full weight. His words hung heavy, but each one widened the cracks in his foundation. Across town, Jasmine met 2 young attorneys who'd clerked for Pearson. They were nervous but resolute. "You're right," said Marissa. "He humiliates public defenders, overrules them to flex power. He's harsher if a defendant speaks up, even slightly." "Did you report it?" Jasmine asked. "Every time," Marissa said. No response. Jasmine's jaw set. "That ends now." That night, on national TV, she sat under studio lights, facing a seasoned anchor. "I didn't challenge Pearson as a politician," she said, measured and clear. "I challenged him as a lawyer and a black woman who's seen unchecked judicial power harm the vulnerable. His $500 fine is nothing to me, but he's ruined lives over less." The clip went viral before the show ended. By morning, Pearson's courtroom was under a microscope. Civil rights attorneys announced they were reviewing hundreds of his cases. Jasmine's office was flooded with emails, some anonymous, detailing Pearson's courtroom horrors. One read, "He gave me 30 days for asking to call my lawyer. I was 19. Pearson dug in, doubling staff, boosting security, banning reporters. Then, on day 3, he faltered." Jasmine returned to court as an observer, sitting silently in the back with a notepad. No cameras, no press. Pearson saw her, and it rattled him. That morning, 22-year-old Leon Vasquez faced him, charged with disorderly conduct, his first offense, no priors. His lawyer moved for dismissal, citing weak evidence. Pearson denied it, no explanation. Leon raised his hand. "Sir, I didn't even." Pearson snapped. "One more word, and you're in contempt." Jasmine's pen froze. Leon's lawyer whispered for silence. Pearson's eyes glinted. "You know what? 30 days in county jail. That'll teach you courtroom manners." Gasps, muffled curses. Jasmine stood sloppily, steadying her breath. Her aide texted the moment to their media contact. It was too late for Pearson to retract. She left silently, but her phone buzzed before the elevator. He did it again. Pearson, oblivious to the unraveling, continued, gavel slamming, voices sharp, motions dismissed. But outside, dominoes fell. State lawmakers demanded an inquiry. The Texas Judicial Council called an emergency session for public complaints. The Bar Association contacted former defendants. At the center was Jasmine, calm, watching, documenting. She wasn't seeking revenge. She was building a case, and she wasn't alone. By week's end, her office was overwhelmed with testimonies, records, and footage from Pearson's courtroom, some leaked by ex-clerks, others recorded by defendants' families. A personal standoff had become a judicial reckoning. She hadn't called for protests, but people came. Hundreds gathered daily outside the courthouse, signs bearing pain and resolve. "My voice matters. Courtrooms aren't thrones. Thank you, Jasmine." Inside, Pearson stayed defiant, rulings laced with bitterness as his unchecked reign crumbled. The spotlight was permanent. Every decision dissected by lawyers, journalists, activists, even judges. The Texas Judicial Conduct Commission launched a formal review, citing troubling punitive patterns inconsistent with judicial ethics. That was seismic, but this wasn't ordinary. Jasmine didn't just observe. She turned pressure into policy, drafting a bipartisan bill for mandatory judicial bias training, stronger court oversight, and an independent review board of ex-judges, public defenders, and advocates to audit courtrooms statewide. Named the Courtroom Accountability and Fairness Enforcement Act, CAFE, it symbolized justice as open as a public space, not locked behind oak doors and fear. The bill gained traction fast. Lawmakers who dodged reform faced flooded inboxes with letters, calls, voter demands. Jasmine testified before a subcommittee, delivering a precise account backed by hundreds of pages of evidence. "This isn't about one judge," she said, eyes locked on the panel. "It's a system letting silence pass for fairness. If this happens in Dallas, it happens anywhere. Not anymore. Not on our watch." Her words hit hard. The bill advanced, but the courtroom drama wasn't done. When Pearson's judicial conduct hearing began, Jasmine arrived early, not as a defendant or spectator, but a witness. Her testimony was set for later, but her presence sent a signal. She was still here, still watching. Pearson entered with arrogance, flanked by grey-suited attorneys. He glanced at her briefly. She didn't look away. He sat at the respondent's table, ironic, where so many young defendants had pleaded for fairness. The morning was damning. Ex-public defenders described Pearson's erratic rulings, contempt for young lawyers. Clerks read memos where he called defendants kids needing scaring. A Latina attorney recalled him dismissing her motion, saying, "Save your theatrics for immigration court." The panel sat stone-faced. When Jasmine took the stand, the room's silence was electric. She swore in, sat, and spoke with unwavering clarity, recounting her court appearance, the baseless contempt charge, the mocking tone, the bias cloaked as protocol. But she went further. "I'm not here for personal grievances," she said. "I'm here to expose a pattern. I've spoken with defendants Pearson sentenced, attorneys fearing retaliation, clerks forced to stay silent. What does it say when justice is feared more than crime? Pearson's attorney objected to her tone. The panel overruled. She finished without notes, no dramatics, just truth. And truth, when undeniable, is damning. By the hearing's end, the panel suspended Pearson temporarily pending further investigation. The room didn't erupt but exhaled, as if a pressure valve had released. 3 days later, an emergency audit of Pearson's records revealed stark patterns: disproportionate sentences, baseless motion dismissals, and at least 42 contempt charges against defendants under 25 for non-disruptive acts. He was permanently removed from the bench, but Jasmine wasn't finished. She returned to Congress with legislative backing and public momentum. Her bill, CAFE, passed the House with bipartisan support, then the Senate. It was signed into law at a press conference, honoring those Pearson had silenced. Texas' first courtroom was placed under community oversight, a model later replicated elsewhere. Months later, a mural appeared on a Dallas Community Legal Aid Center's wall, depicting Jasmine outside the courthouse, one hand holding a justice scale, the other opening a courtroom door. Below, in bold paint, "Justice isn't won in silence, it's claimed in presence." She hadn't sought to be a movement symbol, she'd only wanted fairness for herself and those forced to sit mute before a gavel that forgot its purpose. But sometimes, the spark you strike lights the system ablaze, and from its ashes, something stronger rises. The fallout from that morning reshaped not just Pearson's courtroom, but the broader judicial landscape. Jasmine's confrontation had exposed cracks that couldn't be ignored. Her office continued receiving stories: defendants sharing years of mistreatment, attorneys revealing suppressed complaints. The CAFE Act mandated training to curb bias, ensuring judges faced scrutiny, not just from above, but from the communities they served. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. Pearson, stripped of his robe, faded into obscurity, his name a cautionary tale whispered in legal circles. Yet Jasmine didn't rest on the victory. She met with activists, young lawyers, and families who'd faced Pearson's gavel, listening to their ideas for further reform. Her Dallas office became a hub for grassroots efforts, with volunteers poring over court data to flag other problem judges. The mural wasn't just art, it was a call to action, reminding everyone that justice required vigilance. Across Texas, then beyond, courtrooms began adopting CAFE's oversight model. Public defenders gained confidence to challenge unfair rulings. Defendants, once silenced, started speaking up, knowing someone might listen. Jasmine's testimony had done more than topple one judge. It had planted a seed. She returned to Washington, but her focus stayed local, pushing for federal versions of CAFE to tackle systemic bias nationwide. The press conference where CAFE was signed drew hundreds, including Leon Vasquez, whose 30-day sentence had sparked a turning point. He shook Jasmine's hand, saying simply, "You saw me." She nodded, her resolve unshaken. The fight wasn't over. Systems don't change overnight, but it had begun. And it began with her refusing to bow to a gavel wielded like a club.